What's going on, everybody? My name is Tyler, and today, with the NFL draft finishing about a couple days ago, so I'm recording this on Wednesday, April 29th. The draft ended on Saturday, April 26th? No, that's not right at all. Something like that. You get the point. 25th. There we go. But I'm going to be giving my draft grades. This is separate from the Chips podcast that I do with Ryan Amick. These are simply my grades. I'm going to go division by division, team by team, give a letter grade as if we were in school, and then give a couple reasons why. So with all that out of the way, let's get it started. First division we're going to look at is the AFC East, and we'll start with the New York Jets. I'm giving them a B. They had a shaky day one taking Mekhi Becton over Tristan Wirfs. Don't get me wrong, Becton, if he could be on the field, he is a great talent, but there are some character issues which have a lot of people concerned. They could have also gotten CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy over Becton. And they will always now be compared, the three of them will be together, Becton to those two, I should say. And for a team that desperately needed a wide receiver after losing Robbie Anderson in free agency, and their only other wide receivers on the roster that I can think of are injury-prone Quincy Enunwa and James Crowder, who sure showed some signs of being really, really good last year, but he has also got to stay healthy. They did trade down on day two and got Denzel Mims out of Baylor, which is a good pick, and took Ashton Davis to be a possible replacement for Jamal Adams. The one other concern I have, though, they took James Morgan, the quarterback out of, I believe it was Florida International, over Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm proved that he is a really, really good player in the SEC, had played in some big games. James Morgan, I don't think not so much. Not gonna lie, I didn't watch a whole lot of his tape, but those were some pretty questionable picks by the Jets. Now to the Bills. I'm giving them a C+. They got really good value in Espinoza in the middle of the second round. A guy a lot of people thought would go in the first round. Zach Moss adds nice value as a backup running back, but there is some injury risk there. They needed some O-line help and didn't get one. And I'm a little confused. What are they going to do with Jake Fromm? They already got Josh Allen, who is their franchise quarterback. Is Fromm going to be just their backup? Is he going to be a trade piece? Are they not 100% sure with Josh Allen? Who knows? They also did draft 2 wide receivers in addition to the 9 they already had on the roster, so that's a little confusing there. Next, we go to New England. I'm giving them a C-. They didn't get a QB, which Bill Belichick has said that they're going to stick with what they got right now. I don't believe that at all. I think they're going to make a trade at some point. But in a class that had some really good quarterbacks, I was a little confused as to why he didn't even try to take a flyer on a quarterback. They traded out of round 1 where there were a lot of some really good players on the board. And that was just another confusing thing to me. They could have gotten a Jordan Love right before the Packers did. They could have gotten some really good players to bolster that roster. They doubled up at both tight end and outside linebacker, which is questionable. And I'm curious as to where their direction is. Are they trying to win next year, or are they going to try to lose a couple games, get a higher draft pick, and get either a possibly Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence? Although I don't think that will happen. I think there will be some teams that are much, much worse than that. And especially now that Tom Brady is in Tampa Bay, Belichick's going to want to win. So I'm curious as to where the direction is. Finally, for the AFC East, I got the Miami Dolphins. I give them a B, the best, or tied for the best in the entire division. They got their franchise quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa if he's healthy. I love the Austin Jackson pick to fortify the offensive line, but they also took 3 D-line guys, which is a little questionable, and had the most picks entered in the draft and didn't totally botch it, but didn't totally blow it out of the water either. So that's why I can only give him a B. Tua Tagovailoa, though, he will be the big piece of this draft. If he's healthy and plays for a very long time, this is going to be a successful draft. If not, there's going to be some questions. There'll probably be him or Justin Herbert questions, and those two now will be linked for their entire career. So overall for the AFC East, I thought there were some good things, but I also thought there were a lot of bad things, and it left me wanting more. Next up is the AFC North, and we're going to start with the Cincinnati Bengals, a team who I thought got significantly better. And it doesn't hurt when you have the first overall pick. They got their franchise quarterback in Joe Burrow, and then at the top of the second round, they got a probably future wide receiver in T. Higgins. These two guys, I think we're going to have some really good success with one another. Burrow obviously had the best year in college football history for a quarterback, arguably, and T. Higgins was a very consistent player for Clemson. They got 2 guys who could start at linebacker for them in Logan Wilson and Akeem Davis-Gaither in rounds 3 their third and fourth round picks. Those two guys I think will be nice. They add some pieces to a defense that is getting a little up there in age, but I think they can still do some things there. They got a lot of work left to do, but the foundation is set. When you look at the Bengals offense, they got Burrow, A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins. There's some nice pieces there. They got a decent offensive line. They filled all their quote-unquote needs, but I think there's still a lot of work to do for the Bengals. Next, the Cleveland Browns. I give them a B+. Jedrick Wills will be an anchor on their offensive line opposite of Jack Conklin for years to come. Got Grant Delpit out of LSU, and I'm not sure how good he will be. I'm not 100% sure if this is a good pick, given the performance of another LSU corner who the Browns took last year, in Greedy Williams. They did get some nice depth on the D-line in Jordan Elliott in the third, but needed a corner and never took one. Delpit plays safety. So I'm a little wary on the Browns. I do think overall they did well, but I think there's still some other things to do. They're probably the second or third best team in that division. Then you got the Steelers. I give them a C+. They didn't have a first-round pick because of the Minkah Fitzpatrick trade, and which kind of hurt them given how well this draft was set up and that they were unable to get a top wide receiver, which they needed. But let's be real here. Minkah Fitzpatrick, technically their first-round pick, already paying dividends for them. Anthony McFarland, their first fourth-round pick, might be the replacement to James Conner, which will be interesting to see because I think James Conner actually has a lot of good football left. He just had some injury issues last year, but I think if he can stay healthy, it's no question James Conner is going to be the running back of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Also, he's got to get paid. And a lot was left to be desired, and they only took one guy, Kevin Dotson, to be on the O-line to help protect Ben Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger coming off the Tommy John injury. He just needs someone to protect him. Dotson can do that. They still got some nice pieces on that offensive line, but they're all getting older. So I think the Steelers need to re-up in that department. So overall, C+, not 100% is left. Not great, I will say, for the Steelers. The team that did do really good in the draft in the AFC North were the Baltimore Ravens. I'm giving them an A. They got Patrick Queen, who might be the steal of the draft, given that they got him late in the first round. J.K. Dobbins could have been a first-round pick, was arguably the top running back in the draft, and they got him late in round 2. He will most likely be the heir apparent to Mark Ingram in a year or two. A team that was really good last year might have arguably gotten even better. That's just how good this was. They also got a sleeper in Devin Duvernay to be a slot receiver option for Lamar Jackson. Really, really good out of the Baltimore Ravens. The AFC North as a whole, I thought got a lot better, and I think that'll be really good because they could remain a little bit more competitive. Next up, the AFC South. First, with Jacksonville. I give them an A-, but honestly, it could probably be a B+ or a B. It was really up in the air. They reached on C.J. Henderson at pick number 9. Not a bad pick for a team that had the need at corner. Le'Veon Chason might be a steal at 20 to be an edge rusher on that D-line. Who knows what's going to happen with Yannick Ngakoue. They failed to trade him during the draft, but I won't be surprised if Ngakoue is not on the roster come opening day. Took care of all their needs, specifically on defense, given how many guys they've lost since their AFC Championship run in 2017. And they gave Gardner Minshew some nice weapons, drafting a couple of receivers and a tight end. That's the thing. If they're going to go on this Minshew train, they need to give him some weapons and people to throw to. And they tried to do that in the draft. We'll see if these picks pan out. Next up, Indianapolis. I give them a B+. I like their first two picks in Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor. Weapons on the offense for the future. Pittman at wide receiver. He will be a nice option for Phillip Rivers, opposite of T.Y. Hilton. And then Jonathan Taylor. Sure, there's a lot of wear and tear on that body from all of his time at Wisconsin and all the times he ran it at Wisconsin. But Marlon Mack, he probably is going to be looking for a job soon because Jonathan Taylor is going to be the feature back for a long time. Didn't get an edge rusher, which is concerning. And I'm curious now what will happen with Jacoby Brissett with the drafting of Jacob Eason. Will Brissett be on the move, or are they assuming that Phillip Rivers is going to play 1 or 2 years, then Brissett will get in there, and then Eason will get in there, or the other way around? Interesting to see. The first-round pick that they had was traded to San Francisco, and that was in the trade for DeForest Buckner. So that was technically their first-round pick, which, if it pans out, is pretty good given the season Buckner had. But I'm not 100% sold on DeForest Buckner being the first-round pick for the Indianapolis Colts. Next up, the Houston Texans. I give them a D+. I really did not like their draft. I like Blacklock. Is the only guy I think he could start for this team at defensive tackle. Had a trade fall through with Detroit that could have been used to get a top running back in the second or third round. And it's very concerning about this Texans team. They got David Johnson, who's injury prone, and they got Lamar Miller, who's coming off ACL injury and also has an injury history, a big injury history. So I don't know what the Texans are doing. Personally, I think Bill O'Brien, who is their head coach and their GM, needs to be removed as a team GM, and possibly even soon the head coach. I hope that's not like the case where he just loses his job, but I think he hasn't done really anything good as a general manager. They traded away their top player in DeAndre Hopkins. It's just very confusing, and I think there's starting to be a rift there between him and Deshaun Watson. So I'm a little concerned for the Texans, so I have to give them such a poor grade. Finally, for this division, though, you got the Titans. I give them an A-. Got guys that filled needs for them, but also with good value. Might have reached a little bit on Isaiah Wilson, but if it pans out, it could be huge for that offense. Isaiah Wilson played for a run-heavy team in Georgia. And, they got the top running back, arguably, in all of football in Derrick Henry, at least the top north to south running back. They only had 6 picks and made the most of what they had. Didn't reach on a guy that didn't fill a need or they didn't feel had great value. They got guys who could be filled in, plugged in right away, or maybe not as a starter, but guys who could play valuable time for them and they got great value. So overall, the AFC South, I like what the Titans and the Jags did. The Colts did all right. The Texans, though, I'm really concerned for what they've got going on. Next up is the AFC West, and I'm going to start with the Broncos. I give them an A. Great value in Jerry Jeudy at 15. Also got KJ Hamler in round 2. 2 guys who will grow along with Drew Lock, Courtland Sutton, and that could be a very scary offense for years to come. They're starting to build something really there. Their first third-round pick was Michael Ojemudia, something like that. He's someone who replaced Chris Harris on the outside. Harris now a member of the Chargers, and he fits well into Vic Fangio's system. This was an offense to highlight a draft. When you got a young quarterback on Drew Lock, you got to give him some options. You got Jeudy, you got Hamler, Courtland Sutton, like I mentioned on the roster. They have Noah Fant from last year. They just signed Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay still on that team. This offense, on paper, can compete with the Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion. Will it? Probably not, but I love what John Elway and the Broncos organization did. Next up, speaking about the Chiefs, I give them a B-. No major needs for the team that just won the Super Bowl, but got guys with good value. Clyde Edwards-Helaire might be the best receiving running back in the entire draft and will fit well into their offense. They got him with the last pick in the first round. Need to get stronger against the run, given their division. Willie Gay Jr. could be a guy to help with that, but I think there's still some more things they got to do in that department. That's why I give them a B-. Honestly, it could honestly be a higher grade for the Chiefs, given that they didn't have any real needs. And they got some nice pieces, but there's still some things to go if they want to continue to compete at the high level. I don't think they'll go back-to-back. I'm not going to lie. Even though they have such a good offense, that defense is still a little shaky. They had a nice run in the playoffs, but I don't know if that defense can continue going forward. Next up, the Chargers. I give them a B. Started out strong with Justin Herbert and Kenneth Murray, who might be another guy who was a steal for them in the first round. Kenneth Murray, arguably the best interior linebacker outside of Isaiah Simmons, wherever you want to classify him, in round 1. After that, though, I had a lot of picks that just didn't jump off the page for me. Would have loved to have seen him get in backup running back to be the back for Austin Eckler. I mean, Eckler does have a slight injury history, so I would have loved to see them get a better guy in that spot. Finally in the AFC West and finally in the AFC, you got the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders. I give them a D-. I was very displeased with the Raiders draft. I like Ruggs as a talent, but I think they reached on him at pick number 12 when he probably would have still been on the board at 19. Then they took Damon Arnett at 19, where they probably could have gotten Ruggs originally, which was a big-time reach when guys like Trayvon Diggs and Jeff Gladney were still on the board. They took 3 total wide receivers, which makes 0 sense to me because they already had 8 on the roster, and they didn't get a pass rusher to slow down Patrick Mahomes. The Raiders, they're going to this new flashy stadium in Vegas. I'm very concerned as to what they've got going on there. Mike Mayock and John Gruden. They haven't really had a whole lot of home run picks. Josh Jacobs so far was a good pick, but I don't see any of these picks being home runs. Here's my thing with Ruggs. He's a very good receiver, but he runs a limited route tree. His main route is just blow by his defender and go deep. Derek Carr can't throw deep. We've seen that. That's why Amari Cooper didn't really pan out with Derek Carr. It just didn't work. Also, Ruggs played opposite of Jerry Jeudy and another really good wide receiver at Alabama whose name I keep forgetting. But regardless, that means the top corners for the opposing team necessarily wasn't on Ruggs. They were probably on Jeudy. So now when all the attention is on Ruggs, I don't know how good he will be. I hope he plays really well, but I'm not a little concerned. I am a little concerned. Overall, though, I thought the Broncos had a good draft. The Chargers did well. The Chiefs did all right. The Raiders, though, the AFC West, they're going to be the basement team, and they're going to get beat up on in that division. Shifting over to the NFC, we'll start with the NFC East. And we'll go with my team, my favorite team, the New York Football Giants. I give them a B. They definitely reached on Andrew Thomas at number 4, but offensive tackle was a huge need for them, and if they thought Andrew Thomas was the best offensive tackle in this draft, go for it. I will say, though, I think they could have gotten him a little bit later if they traded down. But that's the thing. If you trade down, you run the risk of not getting the guy you want. They wanted Andrew Thomas, so they took him. So kudos to them for that. They got Xavier McKinney in round 2, which is great value and could be similar to Landon Collins a few years ago, a guy who they got early in the second round out of Alabama. Xavier McKinney arguably could have gone in the mid-first round, fell to the second round, and the Giants swooped him up. And they needed a safety. Filled a lot of needs with getting offensive linemen and pass rushers at the linebacker position. And my one closing thought on the Giants, Dave Gettleman didn't blow it. He could have easily messed this thing up and didn't. So kudos to him. Next up, the Eagles. I give them a C. Jalen Reagor was questionable given that guys like Justin Jefferson and Brandon Ayuk were still available. They already have Carson Wentz. I get it, he's injury prone. But how will they use Jalen Hurts? I've heard rumors that they're going to use him similar to Taysom Hill, where he'll occasionally come in to play quarterback. He'll be the backup to Wentz if he gets hurt. They'll use him as a gadget kind of guy. The one bright spot is that they needed wide receiver help, and they got 3 of them, so I guess the Eagles didn't totally blow it. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm not going to lie, I kind of thought they had arguably the best draft. I gave them an A+, and it pained me to say it. Might have had the best draft out of all 32 teams, like I said. Steal the draft with CeeDee Lamb at 17. I know I've said that a lot, but CeeDee Lamb, everyone thought he was going to be going before pick 13, 14. They definitely didn't think he'd be the third wide receiver taken, and they got him at 17. They got a top corner in Trayvon Diggs in the back half of the second round, which is really nice, and they got better with every pick. They were able to fill needs, specifically at corner with Diggs and Reggie Robinson. Overall, the Cowboys and Jerry Jones did a really good job. Now they just got to pay their quarterback, but that's a different issue. Finally, the Washington Redskins. Chase Young, best talent in the draft, now they have an anchor on defense. By the way, I gave him a C. I get it. Chase Young is really good. They got a hometown kid to be on defense. They got a hometown kid at quarterback in Dwayne Haskins. But that's only 2 guys. So they need a little bit more. They left a lot to be desired. They didn't have a second-round pick, and they reached on Antonio Gibson at the top of round 3. The Redskins still have a lot of work to do. They're going to be the worst team in that division next year. I'm calling it right now. But they got their anchor on defense in Chase Young. They got their franchise quarterback in Dwayne Haskins. So you're set in those 2 spots. Now they just got to continue to grow and get better. Next up is the NFC North, the Packers. D+. What is going on in Green Bay? I'm very confused. They got Jordan Love at 26 to be the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers, it seems like. And Rodgers, he's still got like 3 or 4 years on his contract. So I don't know what they're doing here. They're basically going to say, Rodgers, you got to retire or we're not going to let you finish your career in Green Bay. And this what's interesting is because of the similarities to Rodgers and Brett Favre in this case. Rodgers obviously was drafted in 2005 at pick number 25 for Brett Favre, who was 35 to be his backup and heir apparent. Rodgers now 36. They take Jordan Love. Almost 15 years to the day this draft was. And Jordan Love, I'm very confused here. I don't think Jordan Love should have been a first-round pick. I'm not going to lie. I had him in my mock draft. If you saw the Chips podcast, if you haven't, go check it out. I had him going in the first round, but that was only to, I believe, the New Orleans Saints, who didn't really necessarily need a quarterback, but it would just been a good fit. I like the pick of A.J. Dillon at running back, but they already have a really good running back in Aaron Jones. But here's the thing. They got no one who could be a starter immediately for them, and they got their top 3 picks were guys who were going to be backups, at least for the start of the season. And they got Rodgers no passing game help. They got him no wide receivers. They got him, I think, 1 tight end. But Rodgers, if you want Aaron Rodgers to succeed, and you want this team to succeed, a team that lost in the NFC Championship game, and they got blown out by the run. They didn't get any run help on defense, and they didn't get anyone for Rodgers to throw to. Overall, bad on the Packers. Next up is the Chicago Bears. They got a top tight end in the draft in Cole Kmet, but I don't really know how I feel about this, given that the top tight end doesn't necessarily translate in recent years to really being really good. Noah Fant, T.J. Hawkinson from last year. I just don't really know. Not necessarily always the guy who is a top tight end translates well, but Cole Kmet, I'm not really sure. I'm a little questionable there. Did I mention, by the way, they have 10 tight ends on their roster? 10. That's prior to drafting Cole Kmet, I believe. So it's just very, very odd for me. Jalen Johnson is a nice pick, arguably a top 5 corner in the entire draft. Had a lot of late round picks, which meant a lot of the top guys were gone. But if you have a lot of late round picks, why not trade up? Trade up to see what you can get. They didn't have a first round pick from the Khalil Mack trade, so why not trade up into the first round and see what you can get? You can probably have gotten a different wide receiver or someone else to fit your team. Next up is the Lions. I give them a B+. Jeff Okudah can be really good, but will he be better than Darius Slay? Okudah is replacing Darius Slay, who they released, so I'm a little concerned there. DeAndre Swift is probably the top running back in the draft. Him, J.K. Dobbins, or Jonathan Taylor. But they already have Kerryon Johnson. Although he has an injury history, what does this mean for Kerryon Johnson? Will they do 2 running back by committee, or will DeAndre Swift be now the feature back? They paired the Okwara brothers together by drafting Romeo Okwara's younger brother, I believe his name is Julian, if I'm not mistaken, together, which will be fun to watch, but they still got a lot of work left to do. Finally, in this division, we get the Vikings. I give them an A-. Justin Jefferson is a great value pick and replacement for Stephon Diggs. Personally, I think Justin Jefferson will end up being better than Stephon Diggs. Jeff Gladney is a top corner in this draft, and they got him at the end of round 1, and it's another replacement for Xavier Rhodes, who they release. I get it. Gladney probably won't be Rhodes right away, but can definitely grow into that role. Ezra Cleveland had first-round potential, and they got him late in round 2, and that helps bolster that offensive line. They get running lanes for both Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison on that team, and provides protection for Kirk Cousins. They had a record 17 picks in all, which allowed them to fill all their needs on their roster with pretty good value. But once again, if you have all these picks, you're not going to have 17 rookies on your roster next year. You probably have some on your practice squad, and some might not even make the team. So why not bunch some of those picks together, trade up, and get even better picks? It was a little questionable for me, but overall, I thought the Vikings did well. In the NFC North, although I will say, outside the Vikings, left a lot to be desired, especially the Packers and the Bears. We're almost at the home stretch. We're down the home stretch, I will say. We'll get to the NFC South. First, Atlanta. I give them a D+. Is A.J. Terrell it's going to be better than Desmond Trufant? They released Desmond Trufant in the offseason, and they basically took A.J. Terrell to be his replacement. I don't see that necessarily being the case. Terrell, he has some holding and pass interference issues that didn't necessarily get shored up in college, so I'm a little concerned there. Also, a slight reach for Terrell at 16 in the first round. And no picks that really jumped off the page for me. And Atlanta, that will help Atlanta compete with New Orleans or Tampa in their own division. They got the stout offense. They got 5 first-round picks on their offensive line. They got Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones, who are first-round picks. They signed Todd Gurley, but that defense needs a lot of help. And I'm just very confused, and the Falcons really didn't address any big-time needs in the draft, so I give them a D+. The Saints, I give them a B-. Cesar Ruiz has the potential to be an anchor on their offensive line to protect Breeze for the next 2 years, and whoever is the replacement for Breeze. Steal Zach Bond in round 3. Round 1 talent fell to them all the way in the 3rd round. These picks are quality over quantity. They only drafted 4 guys, which is concerning. But if you can get good value out of them, doesn't necessarily matter how many picks you have. Carolina, defensive heavy draft, given the fact that all their picks were on the defensive side of the ball. Derek Brown is a top talent in the whole draft and the best interior defensive lineman, and they got him at 7, which is great value. I had him going as high as 3. They could have gotten Isaiah Simmons, but you know what? Derek Brown really fills a need there, especially with the loss of what's his name? Gerald McCoy. There we go. Year to Gross Matos was a round 1 talent, fell to them in round 2. So another really good value pick as an edge rusher. And I like the pick of Jeremy Chin at the end of round 2. Great size, a 6'3", 221, ran a 4.45. Great range and speed, can give coordinators headaches in that division. Finally, for the NFC South, Tampa Bay. I mean, Gronk came out of retirement and they signed Tom Brady. So that doesn't necessarily matter what they did in the draft. But Wirfs got a steal for him at 13. He was projected to go as high as number 4 to the Giants. I don't think they needed to trade up 1 slot with the Niners, but you know what? Why run the risk? Antoine Winfield Jr. has great ball skills and provides immediate help to a defense that stunk last year. Would have liked them to get a couple more guys on the offensive line to protect Brady, because who knows how long Brady's going to be there. But you got to keep him upright. He's not taking snaps out of the shotgun. He's going to be under center. And I would like them to see them get a couple more guys to protect him. Finally, we got the NFC West. First, we'll start with Seattle. I give them a C. Usually very draft savvy, but this one on paper doesn't look great. Reached on their first 2 picks in Jordan Brooks and Darrell Taylor. Didn't get interior alignment, which might come back to bite them given the teams in their division. I'm saying interior defensive lineman. No, offensive lineman, excuse me. Wow, brain fart. Niners, I give them a B. Not a whole lot of holes on this team. Javon Kinlaw and Brandon Ayuk have home run potential and can provide immediate impact for this team. Would have loved them to get some secondary help. Richard Sherman's getting up there in age. A lot of guys on that defensive secondary are getting up there in age, and with guys like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, DeAndre Hopkins, Cooper Kupp, among others, in that same division, you need to be able to lock down on them. Next up is the Rams. Grade C-. Love the pick in Cam Akers as a talent, but will he have a bigger impact than Todd Gurley? I'm not so sure. Barring a trade, they won't have a round 1 pick next year or in 2022, which is concerning, and that means they have to hit on a lot of these picks. Van Jefferson and Terrell Lewis, their 2nd and 3rd picks, have injury history, which is concerning. And given the fact that they traded their 1st-round pick for Jalen Ramsey, I don't know, because Jalen Ramsey might not be on the roster, so it might have been a waste of a pick, essentially. They got a lot of work left to do. Finally, Arizona. I give them an A-. Isaiah Simmons might be the best player from this class when it's all said and done, given his skill set, and they got him at pick number 8. Holy cow, I didn't think he'd fall that far. Josh Jones fell to them in the 3rd round as offensive tackle, and when he was a round 1 talent, a lot of people projected he'd go early. All of their picks fill needs for them, and they now look like they could compete for a wildcard spot given the new playoff format. I really, really like what the Cardinals did. NFC West overall was okay. The Cardinals, though, they stand out big time. So what do y'all think? Do you agree with my grades? I mean, the NFL draft as a whole is always very fun, and I think a lot of teams got better, but a lot of teams necessarily didn't help their cause. So let me know down below in the comment section what your grades are specifically for this draft. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more content. I'm going to try to do a lot of content this summer, as now my classes have ended at Syracuse, so we'll see what's going on next. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.